Welcome back to my channel, Fazbear's Menagerie of Madness, where I'll explore the universe of Five Nights at Freddy's and I hope in a new and unique interpretation of events. Following my previous video on Henry Emily, I feel I can now move on to talking about the purple guy himself, William Afton. This take on William is based on various sources of the information including the games, novels, and short stories, and is my understanding of a character sometimes only seen by others as a one-dimensional villain. We know from the Silver Eyes novel that Henry Emily and William Afton were good friends and co-owners of Fredbear's Family Diner. Photographs taken by the local paper had shown the pair during the running of their restaurant in their distinct costumed suits. Henry in the Golden Bear, while William wore the Golden Rabbit. This iconic rabbit costume will last longer than almost all costumes in the collective series. William was married to a woman whom we have never learned her name. He and his wife have 3 children together, Mike, Elizabeth, and Evan, and live in the town of New Harmony in Utah. They live in a house in walking distance of the diner and are friends to the Emily family, including Henry, his wife, and children Sammy and Charlotte. The Afton and Emily households were close as Henry seemingly had great access alongside William to his company, Afton Robotics. It was noted by Sheriff Burke during the Silver Eyes novel that William was clearly the businessman of the pair. It's noted during the game, Sister Location, that Mr. Afton presented his creations to the Fazbear Board of Directors. William was clearly a level-headed individual who, following the absence of his wife, continued to keep a business going and raise a family. I have previously my theories of Mrs. Afton in other videos. My thoughts have been that the dialogue from Phone Guy in the 3rd game outlines a springlock failure that was likely to happen at Fredbear's Family Diner. The failure I have suggested before, I think, was Mrs. Afton's fate. The Phone Guy recordings talk about a time when trained the performers, which would happen while the Freddy Fazbear's restaurant was accepting customers. As the performers wouldn't be required while only security guards are present, then the previously mentioned diner was the likely location. Mrs. Afton would be trapped in a springlock suit while her youngest son Evan watched on with Fredbear plush in hand. This event would not be suspicious, nor would it be covered up. The Emily family would be there to help out their friends. As New Harmony is a small town, I suspect few people told of the story of a costume failure in their small-town children's restaurant. At first, Mrs. Afton continued to haunt the Spring Bonnie costume, not ready to leave for the afterlife. William at some point would become aware of his wife's presence within the costume and keeps the Spring Bonnie active in the diner for the time being. With the Spring Bonnie costume regularly on stage to entertain the children, William wishes would ensure that Evan Afton would be a regular at the diner. Henry, while running the diner, would ensure this could happen. By continuing to wear the Fredbear costume, Henry would keep an eye on the boy. As tensions between older brother Mike and younger brother Evan would continue, their actions will result in a public and graphic event, known as the Bite of 83. This event will leave the Afton son injured from the bite of the mechanical Fredbear springlock costume. Recovering from the injury in a new bedroom, Evan will find himself in the Emily household being looked after by Henry. This will help William, who is working out the details of the Circus Baby restaurant. Henry's guilt from his involvement in the springlock device has now twice affected the Afton family. On the 7th night, Henry will come home in an angry mood, and regardless of the warning from Mike on the couch, Henry will bang on the door that Evan is in, resulting in Evan's fear of a nightmare version of Fredbear coming to finish the job. Evan will break out of the house and into the forest. It would be up to his friend Fredbear Plush to guide him to his savior. Elsewhere, William is getting up and running the Circus Baby restaurant. Here the most advanced models of animatronics are put on show. A sure sign that Afton Robotics deserves the exclusive role of manufacturer of animatronics for the Fazbear brand. But as every story in Five Nights at Freddy's goes, nothing goes to plan. With the distraction caused by Bellora's absence, the workers are lost trying to find their missing showpiece. In the confusion, Circus Baby is left unattended. This animatronic has been modified to collect a child while no one else is around. This plan backfires and Elizabeth comes down to the animatronic, removing the sheet covering it and being its first victim. William is lost. Mike is suffering from his actions to his brother. William is not happy with him and continues down a dark spiral of emotion. While Evan will recover only after his memories would be removed. This, by the way, is a theory I had in my second video. Evan could recover if he forgot about the events of the restaurant, diner, and that of his mother's tragedy. Elizabeth is gone, presumably reported missing, from the restaurant. The restaurant would close down, William would recover the body. Elizabeth would go on to haunt the circus baby animatronic. With a divide forming between husband and wife, Mrs. Afton's opinion of Henry is not good. Discussed in a journal between the pair, William takes to praising Henry while his wife loathes the man for what he has done to her and their youngest son. Charlotte will be carried from the costume change room of the diner outside into the dark and rainy night, where William drives to the rear door and ends Charlotte. Henry will be devastated by this, and his family would become divided when Henry builds the Charlie animatronic. We have learned from Detective Lawson in the Fazbear Frights epilogue that one of the restaurant owners once owned a small, craftsman-style house. While this house went on to be owned by Evan and wife Roxanne, with a brother Mike living in Europe, this was not Henry's house. Following the events of the Bite of '83, William would likely need to move, so no further reminders could torment his youngest son. He sent Mike to live with his mother's family in Europe while William remained to look after Evan and to keep an eye on Spring Bonnie. With the family broken and his friend's family divided, William was able to get back to running the security of the restaurant and maintain the animatronics his company had made. While in 1985, Spring Bonnie would, during the day, collect 6 children in Foxy Cove and end their lives. Oswald, being a visitor to this time period, left through the ball pit. The pursuit of the costumed rabbit would also take the responsible one away. William enters Foxy Cove with police sirens being heard in the distance. He realizes the mistake that has happened and thinks to hide the bodies. Only having time to move one, William must declare one victim, Michael Brooks, missing. Slumped down in the Freibear Springlock costume, Michael will remain for some time. The employee wearing the Spring Bonnie costume would become the suspect of the investigation. Something to note, while reading the story, The Scoop, from Book 12 of the Fazbear Frights, it should be noted that Michael's hidden body plays out like the main character of the story. While Mandy from the story would find Stevie in a mechanical bear, I think Michael's body would go on undetected for quite some time as well. The soul's journey could be best described in the story, Alone Together, from the Tales from the Pizzaplex, as Michael Brooks would want his parents to have closure. While remaining in the suit, he is trying to get the attention of teenagers during the Fazbear Frights story, The New Kid. Having avoided the attention of police and other employees, William had spent years in the security role at Freddy Fazbear Pizza restaurant. Drawing children in at night, William would bring 2, then 3 more in the restaurant. Having learned that the discovery of the will victim result in a closure of the restaurant, William would conceal the crime from the public. This would become the missing children's incident of 1987. These actions would be discovered by Deputy Burke and William would be arrested, but not charged. William could not show himself around the restaurant again. Once Phone Guy loses his life to the animatronics in 1993. Phone Guy's presence these last years has kept William away, but not anymore. Working at night, William could re-enter the restaurant. Now dripping with water during a rainstorm, he dismantles the animatronics before conducting any further remnant experiments. This incident would be met with the souls of the animatronics surrounding William in the safe room, and after putting on the costume rabbit, William would be springlocked for the first time. Dragging himself from the situation he got himself in, William releases himself and puts the costume in the cupboard within the security office. Now safe from moisture, William would begin his physical recovery. Although again he has been put in a situation out of his control. Within the following 2 years, Fazbear Entertainment has begun construction on a shopping center around the beloved Freddy Fazbear's restaurant. Assuming a new identity, William can once again return to start work on a new plan for the haunted Spring Bonnie costume. Encountering Charlie Emily, the recreation of his first victim, William's conflicted nature at this time causes William to struggle with the demands placed upon him. As it mentioned in the Silver Eyes novel, William is weak and cowardly when overpowered by John. He retreats to the safety of the Spring Bonnie costume, not as a suit of armor, but to find someone with the willpower to follow through with the plan. Once Mrs. Afton assumes control of William, she stands differently, speaks differently. She is neither afraid or worried by these teenagers. She survived death itself. William would not awake from the costume for another 6 months. In that time, the suit will snap shut again due to Charlie trapping him, as well as being stuffed into a narrow tunnel, preventing his escape. It would be John and Charlie who released the costume. Springtrap will continue to use his body to capture the teenagers, using the larger, more capable, twisted animatronics. With Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy coming to their aid, the Twisted Ones would be defeated. Before the events of the fourth Closet novel, William would be released. His body broken beyond repair. Augmentation of his body is the last chance he has. Elizabeth would be recovered from the circus baby animatronic and given a new body, the adult form of Charlie. The pair had moved the haunted spring Bonnie costume to the safety of a Freddy Fazbear's restaurant, sealed away within the safe room only to be recovered during the events of the third game. While William would survive the events at the second Circus Baby's restaurant, he would be thrown into a furnace. What should have ended his story would continue on with Andrew's spirit. Andrew, who would go on to appear with an alligator mask in spirit form at the Heracles Hospital where William is taken. His future would be in the Fazbear Distribution Center, where both Andrew and William would find themselves a new form. William would have abandoned his body. Now limited in what he could do, he would draw his eldest son Michael back to Hurricane, Utah. William had lost contact with Elizabeth following the furnace. He had no idea she fought with Charlie and had lost the body she given. It would be Michael who finds her at Circus Baby Rentals and draws yet another Afton back into the horrors of the Five Nights at Freddy's universe. Thanks for staying with me till the end. Click on the image of the rabbit in the lower right corner to subscribe for future content.